All right, let's jump right into a really powerful policy proposal. We're talking about an idea that could completely change the game for affordable housing here in the US. It's about letting large banks get directly involved in investing and even developing projects. Now, that's a pretty bold idea, right? So let's break down what it actually means. And this quote right here, it really sets the stage perfectly. We're not just talking about minor adjustments or, a little bit of extra funding. The analysis points to this as a complete transformation of the system. We'd be moving away from the slow, super complicated model we're all used to and towards something way more direct and powerful. Okay, so this is really the heart of the matter, this fundamental shift. If you look at the current model, it's a total patchwork, right? You've got grants, tax credits, different loans. Developers have to spend forever just trying to piece it all together. It's messy, it's uncertain, and boy, is it slow. Now, look at the proposed model. It's a single, straight pipeline of capital coming from what's called a bank holding company or a BHC. Suddenly, development becomes predictable, it's fast, and it's all driven by serious, large-scale investment. All right, let's get into our first section. We're going to look at the massive economic impact this kind of change could kick off. Because it's not just about building apartments, it's about creating a ripple effect through the entire economy. This really shows you the core problem we're dealing with now. Think about it. Public grants and tax credits often only cover maybe 30–40% of a project's total cost. That leaves this huge gap that developers have to scramble to fill. It's a huge headache. The proposed model, it just gets rid of that problem entirely by providing 100% of the financing from one single reliable source. And what happens when you get that kind of efficiency? Well, you get a massive increase in supply. We're talking about projections between 100,000 and 300,000 additional affordable housing units every single year. I mean, that is an absolute game changer for a country like ours that's facing such a severe housing shortage. I love this next quote because it completely reframes the whole conversation. It's telling us to stop thinking about affordable housing as this constant, painful struggle for grants. Instead, we should start treating it like any other piece of essential infrastructure, like roads or bridges, something that's backed by stable, predictable, large-scale investment. And here's how that ripple effect actually works. It's pretty incredible. The first step is that big investment from the bank holding company. But that money doesn't just build an apartment building and stop. No way. It sparks a boom in construction jobs, a huge demand for materials. And then, once people move in, they start spending money right there in the local community, supporting everything from the corner store to childcare. It's just this powerful economic multiplier.
Okay, so who exactly gets to live in all these new homes? This is where the focus shifts to a group that honestly gets overlooked all the time in the housing debate, what's known as the missing middle.
And who is the missing middle? Well, we're talking about households that are absolutely vital to our communities. Think about teachers, nurses, firefighters, essential workers. These are folks who often earn just a little too much to qualify for the big housing subsidies, but they're still completely priced out of the neighborhoods where they work. This policy is designed to go right after that problem and serve this group specifically. You see, a lot of the traditional programs we have, which are incredibly important, don't get me wrong, they tend to focus on the most deeply subsidized part of the population. But that leaves this huge chunk of the missing middle kind of stuck. This capital-forward approach is designed to build housing just for them, filling a really massive gap in the housing market.
And it goes way beyond just the numbers. This whole proposal is also framed as a really powerful tool for social progress. By funneling all this new capital into communities that were historically redlined and starved of investment, the model could, potentially, begin to undo some of those historical inequities and help build more integrated, mixed-income neighborhoods.
But wait a minute, what does all this mean for the people and organizations already working in affordable housing? I mean, having these huge financial institutions jump in would totally reshape the market. So let's explore what that might look like. And that brings us to the central question, really. Would these giant banks just come in and push out all the smaller, mission-driven developers who've been in the trenches doing this work for decades? Or is there another way to think about it? Well, instead of it being this zero-sum competition, the model actually pictures a really powerful partnership. The whole idea is to combine the unique strengths that both sides bring to the table and create something way more effective than either one could do on its own. This breakdown really lays it out perfectly. You've got the bank holding company acting as the engine. They bring the capital, the scale, and all that financial know-how. Then you have the nonprofit developer as the navigator. They bring that deep community trust and their mission-driven focus.
And, this isn't a totally new idea. It's a public-private partnership model that's been proven to work, kind of like what we see with the low-income housing tax credit. It's a way to make sure projects are both financially solid and genuinely rooted in the community.
So when you boil it all down, this is about so much more than just putting up buildings. It's about totally reimagining housing finance itself, seeing it as an engine for inclusive growth that can build stronger, more equitable local economies for everyone.
Of course, a change this massive isn't going to happen overnight. There are some serious political hurdles to clear. But the source material does lay out a pretty clear and pragmatic roadmap for how to get there.
Building a big coalition is absolutely key. On one side, you'd likely have supporters like banking groups who, see a new business opportunity, and fair housing advocates who see a real path to more equity. But on the other side, you're going to have some opposition. Some people just object to the whole idea of mixing banking and commerce. And you might even have some of the current developers who are worried about all this new competition.
So the strategy isn't to just flip a switch and change everything for the whole country all at once. Nope. The idea is to start small. The roadmap kicks off with pilot programs, modeled after some successful state-level efforts in places like Virginia and Michigan. You start there, you show that it works, that it's safe, and you use that success to build the data and the case studies you need to make the argument for bigger, nationwide reform.
And all of this leaves us with a really provocative final question to think about. For decades, this idea of a wall between banking and commerce has been a cornerstone of American financial policy. But when we're facing a housing crisis of this magnitude, is it maybe time to reconsider that wall? Is it time to adapt some of those long-held rules to meet the truly urgent challenges we're facing today? Ultimately, that's the big question this whole proposal forces us to ask.